On the channel, it's the return of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, and in honor of Halloween, we count down the top 5 mutants monsters of the WWE. Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another Kyle Peterson Top 5 Countdown. And today, we're still in the wrestling headspace in these top 5s, and we're going to kind of piggyback on last week's top 5. If you missed last week's top 5, go back and check that one out as we counted down my top 5 favorite WWE Mattel zombie figures. And we did the zombies, might as well do the mutants and monsters. Not as many lines as the zombies, so the zombies had to be separate, but we're going to combine the mutants and monsters lines together, and we're going to do a top 5 countdown between those two. A very interesting time for the WWE basic figures, Mattel figures, all that kind of stuff, as they were really throwing darts against the wall, it seemed. And a lot of hardcore collectors turned their nose up on the zombies, the mutants and monsters. I did myself a little bit. I dabbled in some zombies, but the other ones I passed on. I said, I don't need these mutants. I don't need these monsters. But then, lo and behold, got to get a deal out there. Kyle was in his Walmarts, and these all went to clearance at a very, very cheap price. I said, you know what? I'm just going to pick them up for the heck of it. They'll be a cool shelf. Originally, I said to myself, I'm just going to display them on Halloween time, but I've had room for them, so they do have their own shelf together. But, you know, as things keep adding to the collection and stuff, there might be a time where I just bust these out come Halloween. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure you're excited to know. But an interesting dynamic, and I figured perfect time of the year to count these down. It'd be weird counting these down like Christmas week, wouldn't it? I mean, it wouldn't really make sense. Or Valentine's week, I don't know. But Halloween week seemed like a perfect time to do this top 5, to get this knocked out. And I think next year, in October of 2022, it'll be here before you know it, we'll do a deep dive in the mutants, monsters, and zombies lines. Very similar to how we do the Jakks Classic Superstars every Tuesday. You know, the Jakks aren't going to go on forever. I think maybe springtime, those will be coming to an end, and we'll start digging into some other lines, maybe ECW and a few lines. We'll dive in. Before we try to conquer all the Mattel lines, we'll do a bunch of other lines out there. But I think October next year, perfect time to do the mutants, monsters, zombies, deep dive, go one by one, talk about the figures, all that fun stuff we do. So be prepared for that. Make sure you subscribe ahead of time. You don't want to miss out on that one a year from now. But let's dive in. Let's get to it. Make sure you get your list together. Like I always say, this is my list. I want to see yours as we dig into the WWE Mattel Mutants and Monsters. All right, let's kick it off with number 5, as one does when they're doing a countdown. And we're going to count down from 5 to 1. Like I said, put yours in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your 1 through 5. Make sure you put them in order. That's always the challenging part. But we're kicking off at number 5, and we're going to the Monsters line from 2018. These figures came out. And number 5 for me is an interesting one. I love the play on these figures, how they kind of mix-mashed them together and they made sense, or they seemed to make sense. And this one, I don't know. We'll see. But tell me what you think. But number 5 for me is the Wolfman, Roman Reigns. Yes, Roman Reigns. He was dubbed the Wolfman of the monster line out there, which kind of makes sense. He's got the long hair, the beard, kind of like a Wolfman's head, I guess, a little bit. I don't know if that might be where it cuts off, but he just looks good, and I feel like, hey, that makes sense to me. For whatever reason, Roman Reigns could be the Wolfman. And I love how it's got kind of his Shield-inspired shirt, a nice gray shirt, torn and tattered jeans, and then he's got his Wolfman feet coming out, sticking through, and then the big hands that are claws. I just really like it. Then he gets his fangs and all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, looking like a Wolfman would if he was mixed with Roman Reigns. So it just, for some reason, this whole package worked for me. And I'm nowhere near the biggest Roman Reigns fan, especially back in 2018. Those were quite the days. It seems like an eternity ago. And this was younger Roman Reigns. But one thing about all these figures is it's one-and-done molds. We always talk about these companies got to get the most out of their molds. They broke the mold, no pun intended, with these, as they only did one mold. It's Roman Reigns. They never use this again. So that's always interesting. I always think it looks good. And the gray and the yellow coloring on this one, like I said, the hands, having the claws going on, it just all worked together. He does even have his Shield dog tags from back in the day as well. So dog tags kind of feeding into that Wolfman. It just makes sense. And it looks good. It's a very eye-appealing figure. When I always look at this set on my shelf, this one always does catch my eye. And it's just, I don't know. I love a Wolfman. I wouldn't say I love Roman Reigns. He's nowhere near my top 20 favorite wrestlers of all time. but I just feel this one does work, and that's why it comes in at number 5 on my top 5 Monsters and Mutants countdown. All right, we're at number 4. And number 4, we return to the Monsters line. And this one makes sense once again. And this is a Legends in the line. So it was interesting to get a Legends thrown in here with some current superstars. I think that is a nice thing that WWE does in a lot of, or I should say Mattel does, in a lot of their lines. They'll mix in some classic superstars into these, and the Monster line was no different. And coming in at number 4 for me, Monster Jake the Snake Roberts. Of course, an easy one that goes together, much like the WWE Masters Universe Origins, WWE Masters Universe Origins collection. Jake Roberts in that line, and he was a Snake Man, like a King Hiss and stuff. So it just makes sense, obviously. Jake the Snake, it writes itself at this point. But I really do like this Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, from the bottom half, you're basically looking at a Mattel basic figure. But up top, you got some of the body, but then he is wrapped by a snake. And the snake is not removable. And it has 2 different heads, 2 different colors on it, which really make it stand out. And then it does have articulation at the jaw on these snakes. Just looks really cool. I like that you can have the mouths wide open, you can have them shut, you can move the tongue around. Just really cool. Then, of course, Jake comes with, just bare arms and fists and an open hand. But then Jake's head, he's got his Jake long hair, but he's got snake reptile-like eyes, of course. And then he has 2 fangs sticking out of his mouth. So just, it makes sense for Jake the Snake. It does look really cool. The extra articulation on these snakes is what brings this home for me. On the back, he's got scales all over kind of the top half of his body, like a snake would, so that is fitting. Only gripe I have, I think he should have kept that scale pattern design all the way through his arms, and that's a minor gripe. But outside of that, just a really solid Jake the Snake Robert figure, and it does make sense. It makes sense if you're going to have a monster. Why wouldn't you have Jake the Snake? Snakes are a monster to many people, if you think about it. So this one looks really good, and that's why it's at number 4 in my Monster and Mutant countdown. All right, we're at number 3. We're at the halfway mark. Now, you got your list together? Head to WrestlingFigureDatabase.com, of course. Check it out. I can't plug the site enough out there. A great site, a great thing for research and stuff. So if you want to look at all the mutants, monsters, zombies, they have a page with all of them on there. So just head that way and check it out and get your list together, because we're at number 3. We're dangerously close to number 1. And number 3 for us is our first entry from the Mutants line, and we're going all the way to 2016 for this Mutant line. This was the one that kicked it all off, you would say. But this one's no stranger. It was part of another top 5 countdown a few months ago, so you might want to check out some of the other top 5s. Make sure you subscribe to the channel out there. But this one at number 3 for me, we're going to one of my all-time favorites, especially modern current guy favorites. We're talking Finn Balor. We're talking the Demon at number 3. Talk about a guy that's made to be in a mutants, monsters, or even zombie line out there. And this one, of course, is the Mutants, but it's just awesome. I love the sculpting. Once again, one and done sculpting. This is never going to be reused. We know the Demon to have that big mouth and teeth on his chest. Well, they went one further. They sculpted the teeth and the mouth together. The jaw, all that. Just really cool, fun with the articulation there. Then you got the effects coming out of his hands. Something you'd almost see in like Marvel Legends or something, or Star Wars. He's kind of got like lightning and force lightning. I don't even know what we would call it. But really cool there. Then you get down to the knee pads, and he's got teeth, a mouth as knee pads. Just a lot of cool stuff. And then, of course, you guys know I'm a sucker for face paint. So face paint, body paint, taking one step further. There's just so much to like about this. Talk about toyetic. Talk about a toyetic mutant monster zombie out there. It just hits me wherever I want to be filled everywhere. It just hits me everywhere. That's where it is. I like this one a lot. That's why he's at number 3. So you're probably saying to yourself, boy, if number 3 is this good, how could the number 1 and number 2 fare? Well, stay tuned and you will find out. All right, we're down to the top 2, and number 2 comes once again from the 2016 Mutant line, and this one is a favorite of many people over the years. And some people love him, some people hate him, not many people are in the middle. But for 2016 Mutants, coming in at number 2 for us, we've got Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar. Big, beefy dude. You guys know I love those jacked up dudes. I tell the story on the channel a few times out there. I met Brock back in like 2005, something like that. And that was me at my biggest, heaviest lifting days, training days. I was probably about 260 pounds back then. And I remember there was a picture taken, and I was standing behind Brock Lesnar at the time, and you couldn't even see me. It was like I blocked out, the sun was blocked out by Brock Lesnar is what it was like. So that's how big of a dude he was, especially back then. But this Brock figure is absolutely fantastic. It almost feels like Goro from Mortal Kombat. You got 4 arms with this one. I mean, how cool is that? For just the posability and the different expressions you can get out of having 4 arms, and then just the attention to detail. It looks like he's just kind of like burned red like a lobster or something. But then you look a little closer and you got that tattoo, that sword tattoo he has on his chest, raised up out of the skin. Same with the big skull in the back, raised up out of the skin. I mean, just almost looks like some kind of demonic monster just coming out to get everybody. He's got effects and like almost like rock coming out of him on his ankles down there and his kneecaps. He does have 2 toes, which is a little interesting. And then you got the typical basic hands going on here, the gloved hands. And then, of course, very fitting, he has the screaming face with red eyes. Just a whole lot to like about this one. It's just so different. And I keep saying it with all these. Getting the most out of your molds does not apply to any of these lines here. These were one-and-done molds. It's very cool that they did that. I don't know how profitable this line was. Like I said, most of these all went to clearance, and that's when your old boy Kyle swooped in. Got to get a deal out there. I picked these up on clearance. But just really cool, neat figures out there, and great for display, and just really do catch your eyes. And of course, if you're a Brock Lesnar fan, you have to have this. If you're a Brock Lesnar completist, you have to have his mutant figure. There's no way around it. So number 2 for me, Brock Lesnar, a very, very cool one. Now we're here. We're at the home stretch. We're at number 1. Hopefully you got your list together. Let's see who I got number 1 on my Mutants and Monsters list. All right, we've come to the end of the line. We're at number 1, and number 1 wasn't hard for me. You guys know I always put these together, and then I sleep on it, and I come back, and I say, okay, are these still in the same order? And in this case, it was. And I talk about getting the most out of your molds and all these, how the one and done, and how they spent so much money on extra articulation for some of these guys, and extra features. It's just really cool. And number 1 is an all-time favorite of mine. There's no Ultimate Warrior, spoiler alert. I wish there was in these lines, but there was not. But there's another face-painted wrestler that I've loved since I was a little kid. He ran neck and neck with Ultimate Warrior with me. He was my WCW Ultimate Warrior, we'll call it. And you guys know by now where I'm going. We're going back to the Monsters or Mutants line, 2016, and we're talking about Sting. Yes, it's Sting. He is here. He is number 1 in our hearts. Number 1 Mutant Monsters for me is Sting. And of course, he is a scorpion. Very fitting, makes a lot of sense. Much like Jake the Snake Robert with snakes, Sting with a scorpion. I just love the claw hands, like a young Clawful from Masters of the Universe. The black with the rub spiked red and black coloring here. The crazy feet going on. And then you get his stinger tail. Look at that. You got some articulation to it. Not as bendy as you would think it would be. It would have been nice if this was all bendy wire. It is not, unfortunately. But really cool to get the stinger there. And much like the Brock Lesnar, if you're a stinger completist, you got to have this Sting. The head is an interesting one, as I could see customizers popping this head off and using it on a traditional Sting, because there's really nothing too different about this head. It's just basically the crow Sting going on. But just so cool with the articulation. He does have the bend at the knees, so he does stand differently. It's just a really cool figure from a really interesting line. At the time, like I said at the beginning, there was a lot of groans and a lot of people saying, ugh, what is this line? What are they doing? But I think in hindsight, all these years later, these are really cool, neat moments in time. Great for your Halloween displays, like I said. Great for if you're a completionist of any of these characters out there. But it's just something fun and different, and we need fun and different every once in a while. If you remember back when the retros came out, people groaned and people were happy. There was mixed emotions. They went away, they groaned. People were happy, depending where you sat on the fence. Then you go to the Masters of the WWE figures. Me, I was extremely excited. There was a lot of people that were totally against those. Why would you get rid of retros, come out with those? Now they're getting rid of those Masters of WWE Universe figures. People are groaning. Some people are excited. It's just the nature of the beast and the way people collect and what they like. And you like what you like, and you don't what you don't. That's just the way it goes. But for me, number 1, my most liked mutant and monster figures out there, it's gotta be Sting. So that's where I sit. You guys tell me your top 5 in the comments below. Be interested to see if any of you guys collected these or if they were easy, hard passes. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, and of course, ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson, support the site. So there you go. So for mutants, monsters, and Halloweeners everywhere, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.